have you here. Let's get into the world post-Ukraine right away, and then we can go on to other subjects. What really do you think can be done to all these 20,000 students who studied there? Now that they're coming back, how do we rehabilitate them? And really, what went wrong? I mean, what's gone wrong with our education system that people have to go so far to look for education?
Well, Kaveri, you've asked a couple of questions. First of all, my profound thanks to the New Indian Express and to your sponsors and to all of you for inviting me once again to this signature event. You know, Ukraine is a tragedy beyond comprehension. It's a pointless war. It's an aggression by Russia on people who did not deserve to be brutalized in this manner. And it's unfortunate that though we are between a rock and a hard place, I would have expected that the government of India would have at least referred to this as a war, if not an aggression. The stinginess of language, I do not think does justice to our great civilization. Insofar as what do we do about our students? Again, in my estimation, at one level, while the evacuation was undoubtedly a success, the fact is that why did we have to come to an evacuation? And like what happened in China, or what, for that matter, what happened 20 years earlier in Kargil, Ukraine again represents a colossal intelligence failure. When you have such significant number of human assets, and you have a build-up which has been taking place for 120 days, and you have 150,000 Russian troops on the border, some of them transported from as far as Siberia. Obviously, Mr. Vladimir Putin wasn't joking. So therefore, those students needed to come out much earlier, rather than in the manner in which they had to scramble to the border and finally be brought out. And some of the public relations which has been done around this is absolutely pathetic, for the lack of a better word. I don't think it covers the government with any glory to try and milk it for the purposes of publicity, what undoubtedly is a tragedy. But coming to what do you do about the students? See, the National Eligibility Entrance Test, NEET, is a deeply flawed paradigm, if not a scam. And allow me to explain why I say so. See, there are 80,000 undergraduate seats which are up for grabs. In 2021, 8 lakh people qualified. The reason why they qualified is because the qualifying percentile is only 19%. So essentially, when you have close to 8 lakh people qualifying for 80,000 seats, you create a pool of students who are then willing to pay enormous amount of fees in order to get into these private medical colleges. And those students who are not able to get in because their parents can't afford to pay, then they go to Ukraine, they go to Bangladesh, they go to Russia, they go to Kazakhstan, they go to Kyrgyzstan. And, you know, the story goes on and on.
Do we have an estimate of exactly how many students are out there? We know of the 20,000 in Ukraine. Do we have an estimate?
Well, in the sense, it would be close to 100,000. You see, so therefore, you have medical students in Kyrgyzstan, in Kazakhstan,
Right.
in China, in Russia, in Bangladesh, and, you know, various other countries. And the reason is because this NEET actually incentivizes a completely flawed paradigm which works to the advantage of private medical colleges. So therefore, ever since NEET has been introduced, private medical college fees has gone up by 600%. In 2020, the 8 lakh students qualified. Somebody who came 7.5 lakh on that qualification list and got 21% marks is today a student in a private medical college. Now, is this the kind of medical doctors who would be able to serve our country? And that's one of the problems. The second problem is, as a lawyer, I have done a fair amount of cases pertaining to medical education. The process of trying to establish a medical college is excruciating, to say the least. And every July to September, the Supreme Court is flooded with petitions from private medical colleges, trying to get their clearances to go ahead. As someone who set up a government medical college in my own constituency, it's the first government medical college set up in Punjab after 50 years. After 50 years. And
I
we've
hope
just made,
so. Your mother was a doctor.
My mother was a doctor. So after 50 years, and we've made it operational just yesterday. Wow. I can tell you that with the best doctors in the country on the board of that medical college, it was a nightmare getting clearances and permissions.
How many permissions would you estimate?
Well, the thing is, the biggest problem in this whole process is that they insist that there should be a 500-bed hospital.
Right.
Now, having a 500-bed hospital is not a bad idea. But the stipulation should be that you should have infrastructure for 500 patients. They actually want 500 physical patients out there. So whenever an inspection takes place, people are hired to masquerade as patients. I mean, this is the worst kept secret of the medical industry. And everybody knows it, and everybody is a culpable participant in this for the simple reason because the monies involved are humongous. So you have to completely reinvent your medical education paradigm from scratch. And I am afraid, and I say it with great regret, that these students who've unfortunately come from Ukraine may just have to go back to Ukraine.
There's no place for them here.
Well, if you have...
We talk about 398 colleges in 2014, now 596.
If you have 80,000 medical college seats, and you have 20,000 people who have come in, which is 1/5 of the total number of seats that you have at the undergraduate level in the country, do you have the capacity to absorb them?
Yesterday, when we spoke to the health minister of Karnataka, he said that we have colleges, we don't have enough students. That problem also exists.
Well, let me tell you, if you have 19% as the cutoff percentile in NEET, you have no dearth of students. I am not aware of a single medical college in this country, which has a dearth of students. In fact, if you want quality students and you want to continue with this NEET paradigm, which itself is the subject of a greater debate, then you need to fix this percentile at least 35 or 40%. For Christ's sake, you can't finish class 10th with 19% marks. And here you are making doctors out of people with 19% marks. What the hell are we doing? So therefore, this entire medical education paradigm, and especially what's happened post-COVID, requires a completely fresh rethink. And to those students who've come back from Ukraine, we need to find a way, as to how we will be able to assimilate them in the system. But as I look at it from the outside, assimilating 1/5 of the total capacity of the medical infrastructure that we have in the country is not going to be an easy task.
So what do? We lower the cost of, we make it simpler to set up colleges. The Prime Minister talks about one college in every district of this country. Is, is that possible
Well,
with the current regulation?
we need to seriously think that why setting up medical colleges is perhaps most expensive in India, right? And a large part of it has to do with the processes involved in setting up a medical college. So, therefore, without compromising on quality, a better way has to be found because some of those regulations which are there, if I recall correctly, Regulation 8A or something from the top of my head, it's so egregious, for the lack of a better word, that it takes 3 to 4 years to get clearance to put the first batch through. And then you have to get renewals every year. And God forbid if you're not able to get renewal in your fourth year, when you have children studying there, those 4 years get wiped out. And so therefore, there's a lot of soft money which floats around. And that's why Medical Council of India and the Dental Council of India did not cover themselves with any glory at all. And that's why you've had the National Medical Commission now established. But unfortunately, the National Medical Commission does not seem to be doing any better. Maybe, they are not as egregious as their earlier predecessors. But in terms of fundamentally reforming the medical education system, I don't think there is any serious thinking which has taken place, and that is what needs to be.
Dr. That, in the Caribbean, you have medical colleges and malls, for God's sake, where they are able to churn out students for the US, and they're perfectly qualified to do that. Is it possible to have such a simple infrastructure?
Well, I wouldn't really want doctors which are made in malls,
Yes.
but be that as it may, I think there is a strong case for actually simplifying procedures, lowering cost, because obviously government does not have the resources to be able to set up these medical colleges. If a state like Punjab, it takes 50 years to set up the fourth government medical college.
How much did it cost you?
Well, it's cost us, I think, roughly to the tune of about 200 crores or something.
For one college?
Yeah. It is a hell of a lot of investment if you actually take land and building, etc. I mean, if you put all those in, because in our case, fortunately, we had, an existing civil hospital around which we've established the medical college. But if I was to count all the tangibles, including land and infrastructure, etc., it's easily come to about 200 crores. And so therefore, for somebody who's making that kind of investment and then to go running around in circles to get clearances, and then those clearances not coming, and then you go to the court every year and you pay lawyers humongous amount of fees, it's a very well-oiled racket.
Okay, so I think we've talked enough about the medical colleges. We have to quickly ask about Punjab. The results are tomorrow. You're from Punjab, you're MP there. You weren't allowed to campaign, of course, but you did, despite the party not making you a star campaigner. What's going to happen? AAP is winning?
I wish I was an astrologer. So therefore, I stopped playing this mugs game many moons back of trying to predict elections. Well, I wasn't able to predict the 3 Lok Sabha elections I fought. I think Prabhuji will do a much better job at doing that. And since he's going to be up next, I'll leave that question to him. But yes, I think the mood in Punjab was that people were looking for a change. And now, whether that vote is significant enough to drive who they thought was the change to the halfway mark, or they fall short, is something which, will be only known tomorrow. But given the kind of tumultuous 18 months that Punjab has gone through with the farmers' agitation and the manner in which the social fabric is stretched absolutely tight, in addition to, of course, the depredations of the Pakistani deep state, which is a continuum going back to 1975, the challenges remain where they are. And those challenges, unfortunately, in the case of Punjab, even if you have a change of government, given the fact that there's so many externalities at play, does not really go away. It's a different dynamic altogether.
One last question. As a student who also was a political activist in college, what's your advice to students out there? Should they be, you were in NSUI, you were president of NSUI, should they be involved in politics from that age, and what does that do for them?
Well, I grew up in a different India. The India before liberalization in 1991 was a different country altogether, and so therefore avenues of personal advancement were really very limited. And so therefore student activism was also one of those avenues of personal advancement. But since 1991, the world has completely and absolutely changed. So I will give them the same advice which I give my daughter, who's a lawyer now. That
Campaigned for you, right?
of course she did. And the advice which I've given her is, first of all, make a career for yourself, stand on your 2 feet, start earning your own bread and butter, and then public service will be your calling. It will not be a profession. So that's my advice to all the young students.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tewari, and we look forward to the results tomorrow, and we look forward to a better future for the children who come back from Ukraine.
Thank you, Kaveri, and I do wish that I do hope that we'll be able to assimilate them and accommodate them in some manner.
For sure. Thank you.